Now I want to introduce an amazing panel. Larry Lessig is the Roy Furman Professor of Law at Harvard Law School, the director of the Edmund J. Safra Center of Ethics at Harvard University, and I'm pretty sure you're familiar with him. So, Professor Lessig.
Thank you, Cenk, and I'm very happy to be on this panel too, because I think it's really important to place these different reform movements in context. I don't accept the framing of the question in the panel, which is constitutional versus legislative change. I don't believe in verses here. I think we have to learn to walk and chew gum and tweet at the same time. And so I absolutely support the constitutional reform movements in all their stripes, eager to get more people talking about the need for constitutional reform. I certainly support what Cenk is talking about with the idea of a Article 5 convention. But I also think we need to get clear on what the type of legislative change is that this country needs right now and start pushing for it. And so that's what I want to talk about, that kind of legislative change. Now, we need to put this in a little bit of historical context. We, of course, have been dabbling with the idea of what was traditionally called publicly funded elections for a long time. We forgot that for 32 years, ever since Richard Nixon until Barack Obama, every single president was elected with public funding and benefited Republicans and Democrats alike. Ronald Reagan was the biggest beneficiary, running 3 times a national campaign using public funds. And the striking thing people forget about this is that when they ran with public funds, they were not fundraising while they were these candidates. So in his second time running, Ronald Reagan had 0 fundraisers as a candidate for president. In this election cycle, Barack Obama had twice as many fundraisers as public rallies. He had 101 rallies and 221 fundraisers. So it radically changed what it means to be a candidate, and obviously I don't think there are many people in this room that think it changed it for the better. But we need to recognize that the model of public funding that was the model of the presidential public funding system is flawed in a number of important respects. The one thing Barack Obama did teach us was the extremely important value in having a system where people participated in the funding by small dollar contributions. That was extremely important in getting people invigorated, getting them behind the candidate, and building the movement of a new candidate. So what we've seen since that time is a whole series of proposals for what I called in my talk the kind of small dollar funded campaigns, bottom-up citizen funded campaigns. And right now on the horizon, there are basically 4 examples out there to think about. The first example is one that was almost passed by the House just in this fall of 2010, called the Fair Elections Now Act. And the Fair Elections Now Act is a proposal that basically allows a candidate to get matching funds for small dollar contributions taken in, and they get a certain amount of money as a payment once they qualify at a certain level. That proposal is still out there, but there's a number of competing proposals that I think are actually more interesting and have more vitality behind them. One of them has been pushed by Democracy 21 and the Brennan Center. And this is another matching fund-like proposal. But what distinguishes it from the other 2 that I'm going to talk about is that it's matching funds for larger dollar contributions. So if the objective is to increase the number of people who are participating, meaning the number of people making contributions, this is benefiting people making larger contributions, not necessarily benefiting and creating lots of incentives for the smaller contributions. And some have calculated that half of the public money in that system would be directed towards large dollar contributions, leading some to wonder, should we be subsidizing rich people giving money to political candidates? The second proposal that's out there is a proposal just introduced about 6 weeks ago by Congressman John Sarbanes, son of Paul Sarbanes from Maryland. This is called the Grassroots Democracy Act. And the Grassroots Democracy Act is a very ambitious effort to create a series of incentives to give members a reason to opt into funding their campaigns with small dollar contributions only. So it has a matching fund component. It has a tax credit component. It has a component that creates a special kind of a pilot for what I was talking about as vouchers. And it has what it calls a People's Fund, which tries to skirt the constitutional concerns around giving money as a function of whether people are challenged by large dollar contributors. But it's an objective to give people confidence to come into a small dollar funded system. It's a fantastic bill. I strongly urge you to look at it. And you can find it at grassrootsdemocracy.com. The third proposal is the one Trevor, I think, is going to talk about most. You have something, it's actually the fourth, sorry. You have something on your chair from Represent Us. And this is what's referred to as the American Anti-Corruption Act. The thing that frustrates me about the people who push this is that because I'm so concerned about dependence, I really try to get people to think about improper dependency. Seems to me the appropriate way to refer to this act is the AA Act, but they haven't yet adopted this nomenclature for it. But this, too, has a very ambitious, effectively a voucher-like program. It's tax credits to fund what would function the way a voucher program would function, as well as an incredible range of other fundamental changes, including affecting the incentives that lobbyists have, including taking on the power of super PACs, including very strong benefits for transparency. My favorite is a requirement that congressmen report how much time they spend raising campaign dollars. So this is, I think, certainly, easily, the most ambitious of the proposals that's out there. Okay, now, so we have this range. And here's the only point I want to make, and it's a point that's going to make some people angry. I apologize for that, but here's the point. We have to worry about insider versus outsider politics here, too. We're at the very beginning of this movement to push the right kind of reform into the system. And we have to make sure that the insider reformers don't sell us out. Don't sell us out too soon for tiny little reforms that will not change the system, but at least make it so they get to claim credit as having passed some bill, in particular some bill they have proposed. This is a disaster right now. It is incredibly important that this debate about what the architecture of change should look like, whether it should be just matching funds or whether it should include vouchers or include tax credits, be allowed to continue, and that you, people outside that beltway, participate in that. And so right now I can tell you inside DC there's a struggle among reformers as people are being told that your ideas are not approved because they've not been approved by the traditional insiders inside this game. So we need to look back to the reformers who've done enormous good work for the past 30 years. And obviously, Democracy 21 is at the top of that list. But we have to say to them, lay back a bit. We need the whole of this movement to participate in this reform movement. We don't need to end this debate right now. We're not going to get a bill passed in the next 2 years. What we need instead is a movement that builds the political support, the citizen support, that it will require to actually get something like this passed. So I think you need to be part of that debate, and I think you need to be very vocal in supporting outsiders in this as much as the insiders might contribute.